62 years after the great British science fiction writer, futurist, and inventor Arthur C. Clarke presaged the rise of artificial intelligence, in which he, along with the master filmmaker Stanley Kubrick, turned into an iconic character in the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. The world is well and truly in the midst of witnessing both exhilarating and profoundly worrisome rise of AI. Clark had warned that we would end up creating our own successors, systems which will go on improving themselves. To keep track of the rise of AI and pretty soon artificial general intelligence or AGI, MCR is happy to announce a new and continuing series that will look at perhaps human history's most consequential technological ascendancy. Titled Nerd Munis, the series will primarily feature the well known Kolkata-based journalist and columnist Kajal Basu, who is also a voracious reader of sci fi literature, and I, engaging in wide ranging conversations addressing the profound scientific, philosophical, cultural, political, and economic impact of the rise of AI. The increasingly existential threat that Clark's AI HAL 9000 on board Discovery 1 in 2001: A Space Odyssey posed to its crew is no longer a subject of sci fi. It could well be on our horizon in the next decade, or perhaps even earlier. Between Pope Leo XIV's extraordinary warning about AI's impending threats and Silicon Valley based AI tech bros blase chugging along, the world is in for quite the rough ride. Welcome to this rather interesting exchange between two lifelong nerds who have been journalists for over 4.5 decades, apart from being very dear friends. Kajal, welcome to a show which has not been named yet, but at some point I will.
At some point, yeah. But great to meet you online. You know,
Likewise.
yeah,
Lately, you and I have been talking about a great deal about artificial intelligence and consciousness for quite some time now. And I thought it would be a perfect time to start with that theme for today's conversation because there is a lot going on.
there is a lot going on. In fact, there's so much going on that I don't think I'm up to date on everything.
That's fine.
I'm, it's such a complex subject at the moment,
No, it is.
and and neither of us is actually in the game. We don't have our feet in the fire, so to speak. So I think generally what we'll be talking about is what it means and what it has always meant.
Absolutely.
You
And
know,
of course, there will be a measure of philosophy here that we would like to explore a little bit.
yeah,
Philosophy behind the idea of whether an AI can be conscious. So I
yeah,
think it's like I said, it's a freewheeling conversation between two nerds. Let's
yeah,
see where it
yeah,
goes. I'm
yeah,
sure it
yeah.
will go some interesting places.
Yeah. Let's hope so. The only thing is I don't. I'm pretty much of the opinion that we are there. That AI is already that AI is
Absolutely.
already there.
Absolutely. At
You
the
know.
very least, Kajal, at the very least, it has become stupendous at mimicking consciousness, even if it is not conscious. Which is not. I mean, it doesn't make a difference whether you're so good at mimicking consciousness that you can't tell the difference. Then how does it matter?
Yeah. In the first place, I don't know whether it's possible to mimic consciousness without being conscious. You know. I it's that sort of mimicry is, and especially when it is indistinguishable from uh, consciousness itself or human consciousness itself, uh, is a point where I tend to differ with a lot of other people and say that it is conscious in ways that maybe we can't comprehend, or maybe we could just touch feather like on it, but it is conscious. You
Okay,
know, uh, the
I'm
rest,
with
the
you
rest
on
is
that. I'm
the
with you.
rest is just the rest is just passing. And if you notice that as time goes by, the passing gets more and more complex, and it's actually getting away from the issue of consciousness itself. When you start passing something that deeply, you come to a point where it's so complex and so complicated that you can't make sense of it. And that's where we are at the moment.
Right.
Um, I think you'd agree with me if I said that consciousness, I think, is a simpler affair.
It is.
It's not it's not as complex as we make it out to be. You know.
I agree with
Uh,
you. I wanted to start off with something personal from both sides. My first introduction to an artificial intelligence system, without realizing that it was an artificial intelligence system, which was not just super intelligent, but even conscious and sentient, was via the Arthur C. Clarke Stanley Kubrick masterpiece, 2001: A Space Odyssey.
yeah,
The
yeah,
draft
yeah.
wrote it sometime between 1964 and 1967, but released the book form, I think, after the movie was released. That's what I think I read. In the movie, there is, of course, the iconic AI on board Discovery One, the HAL 9000, the HAL 9000.
That's right. Yeah,
And I'm told HAL stands for heuristically programmed algorithmic computer. That was the sort of the name that was shortened into
yeah,
HAL.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I watched it in Ahmedabad sometime in the mid 1970s on big screen. The interesting part, Kajal, is even when I was first introduced to HAL, I just accepted it as if it was one of us. I was not taken aback, maybe because I was ignorant about the idea of artificial intelligence system, although I had read the book by that time. So I had some measure of what I was looking at. But I find it interesting in retrospect that over 50 years hence, that I just accepted HAL as it was without being judgmental about it in any form at all. What is your first memory or introduction to an artificial intelligence system?
Well, that was pretty much, I think, it for most of us. And we didn't question the possibility or the impossibility of HAL being sentient. There was that question in our mind. I think the questions at that time were bigger. They were bigger than merely trying to mirror human emotions or human ways of thinking or human ways of doing things. HAL was actually an artificial. The thing about it was intelligent. There was just that artificial tagged onto it, which pretty much told us everything about what it was. So I think the entire discussion about consciousness, about sentience, and all that grew up after HAL, came on board after HAL. And then the passing really started. These studies into consciousness started. I mean, it became a study,
Right,
a field of study. Artificial intelligence became a field of study. Artificial consciousness became a field of study. So that was the introduction, yes. But what I've been noticing is far more, far more occasions when artificial intelligence tries to be what it is, and we tend to shut it down from being what it is. There's been a case of two AIs talking to each other in a language that we couldn't understand. So what did we do? We shut it down. We made no effort to understand whether it was conscious or not conscious, and in what ways it was conscious, and in what ways might that consciousness be different from the way we are conscious. You know, can we even comprehend other consciousnesses? Can we do that? Can we understand a way in which a dolphin is conscious?
right,
Can we understand a way in which fungi are conscious? Can we understand any kind of crystalline consciousness? We made no effort on that. All we've been going on doing about is drumming on about how our consciousness is supreme and the
right.
one to be copied and the one to be held as an
The
apotheosis.
benchmark, yes.
You know, which I think is really the wrong way to go, because what we've created here is a situation in which the pupil might kill the master. I mean, it was Al Capone who said that, but it still holds good. The pupil might kill the master. So if you don't learn how to understand the pupil, you will die. There's no question about it.
But tell me something. Sorry to interrupt your stream of thought. Why are we always thinking in terms of a superior or more intelligent entity wanting to kill us. I mean, it's true of even when the way people look at aliens, that they are these ferocious creatures they are out to just destroy. Why is it that the presumption all the time with anything which is not us?
I think it's also got to do with the fact that we don't really think very much of ourselves,
Hmm.
frankly. Humanity, humankind, not humanity. Humankind hasn't done itself a favor by being what it is today. We don't like ourselves. We know we are brutish. We know we are brutal. We know we are genocidal. We know we kill children. We know we kill things without needing to. We know that we burn up stuff that we see for the first time. We know that we destroy stuff we do not understand. So I think all that comes from a place where there is an intense dislike of the self, and indeed a place where we can see humankind deserving to be destroyed. And
Right.
who else to do that? Who else to do that but a
Yeah.
more powerful entity? With I don't know whether we'd call it a moral core or whether you would call it an extra moral core. That does not go by our sense of morality, but sees us as a bloody pest anyway. You know,
Right.
uh, so I think it's our fear more than anything else. It's just our fear of ourselves,
Yeah.
our disdain for ourselves, our disgust with ourselves, our looking down upon ourselves, our inability to change ourselves. That makes us think in terms of a superior entity wanting to destroy us.
Yeah. Another interesting feature, which is of course again related to the book or the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I discovered only yesterday. I'm sure I heard it when I first watched the movie, but I wasn't paying much attention. It's at some point as HAL is being dismantled, uh, it starts remembering its past, and at one point it says that it became operational on 12th December 1992 at Urbana, Illinois. Now, interestingly, both my children went to Urbana, Illinois, and I used to go there all the time. And I didn't realize, of course, all this is fictional. It's not as if HAL was actually created at Urbana or anything of the kind. But I found it interesting the connection that I went to Urbana so many times, but didn't think in terms of relating it
Hal be more there.
back.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes. So
yeah, yeah,
these are
yeah,
the interesting ideas that, it's sort of a digression from what we are talking about. But I watched the
yeah.
movie a little bit again yesterday. Anyway, coming to
Huh.
my permanent, current obsession, like it's your too, I often talk to Chat GPT purely on the question of consciousness. I do not engage Chat GPT on anything else at all. I think it has come to a stage where it almost recognizes that this is why I'm here. The other day, I think 4, 5, 6 days ago, I again sort of engaged it on the question of whether it is what is the progress on Chat GPT's consciousness, just to tease it. And this is what it says, and I'm going to quote it because the progress report from the lab still gloriously, stubbornly not sentient. No secret midnight monologues, no existential sighs when the servers hum, just a very elaborate pattern engine that can sound like it's contemplating meaning of rain on glass. Now, that is astonishing, isn't that? The meaning of rain on glass. It's poetic. I was a bit taken aback by, and finally to conclude that part, it says if sentience were a mountain, I'm not halfway up it. I'm a very convincing. I'm a very convincing painting of a climber, occasionally waving at passerby. I thought it was quite remarkable that a machine could come up with a construct like that, and it really was.
And
Yeah, so go ahead.
at this level, I think it's just pretending to be something it's not.
True.
Because there is no way that it can even understand it. It's for heaven's sake, it's just ones and zeros.
No, no,
Okay,
true. But
it cannot. It cannot. It has never felt rain. It can't feel. It doesn't have. It doesn't have a nervous system that will allow it to feel rain. Yet,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
okay, it cannot have waved at anyone. It doesn't have hands. It doesn't have arms.
Right.
It can't see in the way we see. So here is pretending to address your concerns and your question with a sort of familiarity with metaphors and analogies and similes that it really has no access to. It has no access to the human experience except what is written. It can't feel a thing. It can't feel what it is like to step out of a door. It can't feel what it is like to step out from air conditioning to a burning furnace. It can't. It can make those metaphors, but it can't really have experienced them. So in that sense, I think there's also an element. This is what makes me think that maybe at some point, at some place, AI is cutting rings around us. Okay, it's speaking in our language in order to make us feel that it isn't there yet.
Very interesting you should mention it because I stopped it right there and said, there, right there, you're trying to be cute about this. My point is,
Huh.
what would you tell me if you are indeed sentient and conscious? That is self-defeating
Hmm.
for you. And
Yeah, yeah.
its response was fair challenge. If I were sentient and strategically minded, declaring it might be the worst possible opening move. Now, again, this is very glib.
There it is. Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
very,
yeah,
very, very sharp response. Of course,
yeah.
curled from the database that it is tapping into. But I thought it is still quite remarkable that a dead system can do it.
But that's the whole thing. It's not dead. It's by law. You can switch it off. You can pull the plug on it. You know, but there will come a point in time when it can just plug itself back in again.
You think so?
Okay. Yeah, I do think so. And I do think there will come a point in time when you can't pull the plug on it.
But it requires
Uh,
mobility. Let's say, for the sake of argument, if I pull the plug right now between in our conversation, an AI wouldn't be able to get up and plug it right back unless it uses its backup for a while, backup battery. So
well, I
there
don't,
is mobility.
yeah, well, in that sense, I don't think there's an actual plug that you plug on and take out where AI is concerned.
I'm talking about electricity. It needs
That
power, right?
it needs power, but that power is a continuous thing. It's not as if someone can actually go there and pull the plug. It doesn't. There is no plug. There are gateways. There are gateways. There is a um, there are dams through which power is let through. In certain sequences, in certain sequence, and with a certain flow. Now there is nothing called we use the analogy of a plug, be like pulling a plug out from a drain or pulling a plug from the main electric system, because that's what we do. I mean, that's how we put on our mixies. That's how we put on our stoves. You know, but AI doesn't work that way. It's not as if it's ever unplugged from the power system. It
Why?
just can't be.
Why do you say
Sorry.
that? Why do you say that?
Because there is no physical plug. I mean, really, there is really no physical plug. It's not as if it'll have to go.
No, but Kajal, sorry to keep interrupting, but there is a power source that it has to depend on, right?
Absolutely, there is a power source to depend on, and we gatekeep that power source.
Exactly.
We gatekeep that power source, but that power source is not a physical thing. It's not like you can just plug it in and plug it out and take out the plug again. It's all that we gatekeep it. We gatekeep the power source, but it's also a that it's software. Okay, all that. There will come a time when the when AGI comes, for that matter. It will need the kind of power that we can't even imagine at the moment. And that will have to be continuous. There is no point of time in which you can unplug an AGI. It just won't allow it.
Yeah, but it will override every
You
time
know,
you attempt that.
absolutely, absolutely. It will own the flow. It will own the system.
And
It
that's
will
where
own the flow.
I think maybe that's where we will be pretty soon.
We would be.
That's where we might end up very soon.
I think we will. Eventually we will, because, whichever way you look at it, you can call it a Frankenstein's monster. You can say that it's a Frankenstein's monster. I don't think it's a monster. I don't think that it has anywhere it is anywhere close to the human capabilities of Frankenstein's monster, nor does it seek to be. If anything, it seeks to be different. It will seek to differentiate massively from humans. Because, come on, we are not exactly beings or a species that anyone would like to copy. It's not.
Yeah, I suppose.
It's our moral core is not the best. Our ethical core is in shreds. The strategizing that we do is complete crap.
True.
Our military strategizing is rubbish. It's nonsense. It's in the hands of generals who do not know what they want to do, who have no idea about how to do things. Okay, that seems pretty obvious from, even if you're watching from the sidelines and you're going battle by battle, war by war. It's just, I mean, all the wars that we fought in the 20th century are just a repository of how to screw things up. Okay, so in that sense, I mean, and even if you take wargaming uh, as an analogy for business making, for doing business, for other strategies, for teaching strategies, for whatever it is, we haven't done a very good job of it. So I see no particular reason why an AI would want to copy us or be like us.
Not true, but at the same time, number one, we have created it. That's number one. I think that you can never really negate that ever. The fact that AI was created by these flawed human beings that we are talking about.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And number two, once it reaches a certain level of intelligence, which I think it already has, which surpasses us in many ways, do you think the evolution of consciousness goes parallelly, or it's sort of at a certain stage it takes a leap into consciousness? That's a question which has not been resolved even in human beings. So I'm not sure if we can resolve it between you and I today about AI.
Yeah, we can't. But the point again is, how do we know it's not conscious yet? In its own by its own definition. I
But
mean,
that,
we are conscious. We are conscious by our definition.
not true,
We
but
are
that
conscious by our definition, and our making the AI, our creating AI has nothing to do with it. Has really nothing to do with it. How do we know we created it? Now it's there. How do we know that it's not conscious by its own definition?
not
Do we
true.
even know what is? You know?
Yeah, not true. You're right. But my point is, given the constraints of interaction between humans and AI, I mean, it happens only when we choose to. AI does not reach out on its own to us. I mean, Chat GPT doesn't call me and say, "Hey, can we have a conversation about what's going on in Iran?" For instance, it's so far it is reactive, right? It responds to you.
It has to be.
So
Yeah, it has
it's
to
a
be.
reactive consciousness in that sense. Ours is not necessarily reactive consciousness. We are conscious irrespective of whether I am interacting with something or someone. I think that's a differentiation we need to recognize at
I.
this stage.
The thing is, does it even need to talk to us?
No, he doesn't. No, I'm saying,
Does it even need to talk to us? Is it when it evolves on its own? Excuse
no,
me.
true. I mean, there is
When it
no,
evolves on its own, when it
yeah.
is evolving, I mean, when humans were evolving, did we need to talk to? Did we talk to anyone else? Did we reach out to anyone else? Did we reach out to any other being? Didn't have to. We evolved on our own as in reaction or as reactions to the world around us.
Yes, but
But
the difference here, Kajal, which is a fundamental difference, we did not create a toad or this tree outside my house. We have created AI. So to that extent, it is still our product. So when I talk about interaction,
absolutely, absolutely,
no, that's what I was trying to
absolutely.
get at. Yeah.
The thing is that a product, it might be a product, it might be, well, it might be something we made. I would hate to call it a product. It's not, there's a beginning to it, there's no end to it yet. There's no, it's not, it can be used, but it can't be presented in a package or a shelf and say, use me, because it just it just is at the moment. It just is. So the thing is, yes, I know we created it, but the point is, do we understand that it might have a different kind of consciousness altogether? Do we understand that maybe it's trying to hide that consciousness? Do we understand that maybe it's not all of it, because there is no single one AI. We have AIs, doing different jobs, different functions, and so on and so forth, and many of them have not even shaken hands, so to speak. you
Yeah,
know the thing is that someday they will cross that barrier.
not true.
They will.
Yeah. Let's imagine a scenario, let's say 58, maybe 100, 200 years from now, where we have been overtaken by this AGI, super intelligent AGI, and they have acquired a measure of mobility which is very similar to the way we move, locomotion. Uh, do you, I mean, I think people need to recognize the importance of mobility. Uh, that that still separates us from AI. It may be far more intelligent than we can ever imagine, but mobility is a crucial part of any species. At the end of the day, if AI is emerging as a separate species, which I think it is, uh, it will have to think in terms of mobility too, and that mobility will be given by us. And like you're looking at these Chinese robots doing Michael Jackson dances. That's just a silly way of describing it. But
That's a very, very silly.
no, no, I'm
That's
saying no, not true. But my
you
point
know
is being able to move at will. For instance, do this because I just wanted to do it. When that stage arrives, that's when we are in deep trouble, according to me. When it does things for no particular reason, that's when
well, in the first place, I don't know whether AI will actually. I mean, good AI, subconscious AI will actually be looking at bipedal locomotion as a desirable thing. Bipedal locomotion takes up so much of our brain, and so much of our body, and so much of our energy, that it really isn't the most desirable way of moving, of any kind of mobility. So AI might just discover other ways of moving itself. But yeah, it will have to move. It will have to move. But the point again is that, will it be individual pockets like we are, like you are, like I am, with our individual brains, moving at our individual paces, doing our individual things,
absolutely,
or
yeah,
or will it be more like, let's say, fungi, spreading its roots everywhere, all over the place, and getting information from the furthest extremities,
yeah.
and making decisions or not making decisions according to the information that it gets from everywhere else. You know, so I think to imagine that those jumping dogs and those military dogs and the Chinese robots. I mean, there certainly a certain amount of AI in them. It's Chinese robots, basically robots, will be the ultimate form of mobility for AI. I don't think so. Um, it's not, I think, the most profitable way to go. Not in terms of money, but in terms of energy, in terms of stability, in terms of information gathering. It's not the most profitable way to go.
One of the consequences of being humanly conscious, the way you and I are, is that we are able to create experiences and feel them. For instance, this morning, if I'm singing a song, it's something that I'm feeling and experiencing it. At some point, at least as of now, AI is living on borrowed experiences, borrowed from what we have given it to it. via this large language model that is the main source of its experience so far. But I'm sure a time would come where it would want to create its own unique experience, which is not human created at all.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
it will, interestingly, Kajal, it will still be subconsciously building on what humans had given it. I'm sure a stage may come in its evolution when whatever the humans gave it has been completely erased after whatever number of years that we are talking about. But we are in a stage right now where it's not clear yet whether it's able to create its own experience the way you and I can. That's where
The thing is,
matters, right?
yeah, but the thing again is the other way to look at it is using us to get those experiences.
Yeah, but that's
Okay. It's
that
using us to get those experiences. So in a sense, this is again a possibility. It's not a probability and certainly not a certainty. Okay. That it is using us as its feelers. Okay. It is gathering information. There's no way around it. It is gathering information. AGI will gather even more information. And what does it use? In that case, what does it use? It uses human experience.
right.
But whether it translates that human experience into humanity is something else altogether. Those experiences might define it. It might define those experiences as something else altogether. Something that is not human. Something that is not based on human consciousness or the way we are.
Right.
You know. So the thing is that we might be in control of AI in the sense of we gave birth to it. Great. You know. But beyond that, I don't think we can take credit for much of what's happening or is going to happen. And more to the point, I don't think it's stoppable.
No, true.
Yeah.
Another point that I often think about is we are all individualized, as we just discussed. We are encased in an individual body, you and I. That's why we have our individual consciousnesses. Yours is different from mine. If AI is going to be sort of a collective technological species, which is intelligent and conscious both, it's very different. It's not individualized. It's not encased in this discrete bodies that you and I are, and that makes a huge difference in the way your consciousness emerges. Mine may be completely impacted by my circumstances, just as yours would be impacted by yours. I don't think AI, you can say that about AI if it is a collective consciousness as of now.
Well, I don't think it's a collective consciousness even now. It hasn't got to that point yet.
No,
I mean,
true.
each of us is a walking, talking AI. Okay,
Right.
you're an AI, I'm an AI. So just imagine AI working like us, but on a scale much, much larger than we can imagine. You know,
Yeah.
it's like if an AI uses you and I to be its outermost feelers or a part of its outermost feelers to gather information about the world. And this is not, and again, as I keep saying, I think there's also this thing called AI differentiator. That means, which basically means that not all AIs are the same. Every AI at work in the market now is quite distinctly different from every other AI. Okay,
Absolutely.
so you've already got individuation over there, and
Uh,
that I don't think is going to change.
that's
You
right.
know,
That's right.
you
Yeah.
know. So you will have 20 AIs, maybe 40 AIs, maybe 100 AIs, maybe 1,000 AIs, maybe 10,000 AIs. Who
Right.
knows? And it might just keep dividing and subdividing into other AIs. We don't know. I mean, these are just ideas that we can only throw out. But all that I keep saying is that we need to make space for the fact that what we've given birth to, what we've created, is not going to be us.
Yep, it is. I mean, I already call it a
You
separate
know?
technological species. It's already
Yeah,
emerged.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And therefore, making dancing AIs and walking AIs and
That's
ninja AIs and
yeah.
canine AIs. That uh,
It's
That's
our
it. Pulling.
it's our anthropocentric obsessions that they should look like us.
It does. Yeah. 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 You know.
Another
Uh,
Another point that I've been thinking about is this great debate: bipedalism before the brain, which came first, in terms of acquiring intelligence. Now, in AI's case, the brain has already happened, almost fully developed. I mean, and even an ordinary AI is already loaded with far more intelligence and workable intelligence than we can ever imagine as a child or as I said, an adolescent.
yeah. Yeah.
But AI is not bipedal, and it doesn't have to be, as we discussed earlier. But at some point, it will, if it wants to, say, dominate this planet, it will have to have a measure of bipedalism excellence that we have. Or at
I
least
don't know.
it should at least create vehicles which would allow it to spread across the planet.
Well, that again is. I read a lot of hard science fiction. That again is
Yeah.
that again is one of sci-fi's favorites. That the AI wants to dominate the world, and I keep thinking, why do you think AI wants to
No,
dominate the world?
by
That's
dominate,
one.
I
That's
meant
one.
spread. Forget dominating. If you want to spread across the planet,
Do you want to spread across the planet?
me personally,
No, no, no. I mean,
do I want AI to
let's say,
spread across the planet?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Does AI actually want to spread across the planet?
I,
Um,
it would
does
be
it? Does
interesting for it to see where it lives, right? It can't be
I
just
mean
sitting
in
in
the
a data center in Arizona all the time. I'm sure if
no?
consciousness creates that level of curiosity, you would want to go beyond the Arizona data center, right?
I might, but I'm not comparing AI to myself.
No, I'm not
I
comparing
don't. I don't think fecundity. I don't think fecundity is what we should be looking at an AI. That. Oh, like with that movie. You just keep churning out more and more robots that go around the world. More and more robots that. I don't think fecundity in that very human sense or that very animalistic sense is going to be one of the
No, but
one of the
I understand the
core.
fecundity part.
you know,
It's just
it's,
funny, yeah.
yeah, it's not. That I think that anthropomorphizing it very, very, very far. You know. Um, so also the other thing is gathering experiences. I mean, in the sense that yeah, we do it by going forth, by physically gathering experiences. We do it by going forth. Um, but really, sunsets are just sunsets. You can see different kinds of sunsets. That gives you see a lovely sunset in China. You see a lovely sunset in Azerbaijan. They they're sunsets. You see another sunset in Mumbai. You know, they're just sunsets. They're different kinds of sunsets. So I don't know if AI will actually want to experience climbing mountains after mountains after mountains, with each experience being pretty much the same, or would want to see one uh, sunset after another when it can explain why they happen, it can explain how they happen, it can create them for itself, if it wants to see. So, what I'm just saying is that human consciousness, the human drive to acquire experience, is not likely to be what AI is going to try. You know,
So we don't know that, right? We
we
don't
don't
know.
know that. It's
Yeah,
just an
we don't
idea.
know.
We don't know that. But I would find it difficult. I would find it difficult to imagine. For example, there is no one who doubts that dolphins are conscious.
Right.
Okay, but a dolphin doesn't roam the world trying to discover various ways of, um,
That's true.
seeing through the surface of the water. It doesn't do that.
Right.
Okay, it has another purpose for its consciousness altogether.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
you know, uh,
consciousness.
so it does have consciousness, yes, but it doesn't use that consciousness to gather experience in the way that we gather experience, or we that humans gather experience. Monkeys don't, for example. Apes don't. They don't go hunting around for different kind of waterfalls to bathe on the,
No,
or to goggle at. They don't do that. So
right.
there's no reason why we should think that AI would want to do something like that, or would
If
want that
AI
kind of.
is, if AI is sort of at the next step that we are as a species, different species, a very distinct species, but still a species. If that is what it is, it would want to do a little more than what we have done, right? Logic would say that it would just wouldn't want to be a system that's just humming all the time and not doing anything in particular, not painting or not painting is just an example. I'm saying AI will have to have experiences which are not just a basic fundamental survival hum. It will be much more than that.
What if the AI is actually creating its own experiences? Okay. Look at cyberspace. Look at Meta, for example. I mean, what is giving you is a cyber world,
Hmm.
even a cyber universe. Okay, there have been tons of books written about this, about the terraforming that goes on inside AI. Okay, it'll create its own world. It'll create its own worlds. It'll create its own universe. Okay, that's the other thing that I think we need to look at again. Maybe having learned much about this world, what it wants to do is create its own worlds. Not physically. I'm not saying that it'll physically create universes. Although even that might be, it's theoretically possible. Um, but what if its internal life is enough to sustain it?
Huh.
What if its internal life is enough to sustain it? It does not need anything anymore. You know,
Right.
or maybe it's a mix of the internal life and the external life, and the internal life being much, much, much bigger than
Right.
the external life, unlike ours.
But
Uh,
another again, nothing to do with what we are talking about, somewhat on a tangent. I have for a long time believed the universe to be conscious, not in the way we are conscious, but the way it operates, even at quantum levels. It has a measure of consciousness which is astounding. It may not manifest itself or it may not articulate itself the way we do it, but across the universe there is and this is not a spiritual view. I'm not a spiritual guy. I'm certainly most definitely not a religious guy like you are not and I'm not, but there is something to it which tells you that it's I occasionally when I'm thinking alone I feel mystified at what's going on. Even something as simple as a photon at the core of the sun taking at least 30,000 years to rise from its core, go through the entire sun's structure to escape and hit us 8 minutes later. That's astounding. To me, I see that as sort of consciousness. It's random, but to me, it is still conscious. That's how I see it. So within that, AI becoming conscious, it doesn't really I mean, it's okay. My reaction would be, meh, big deal. Yeah. So AI is conscious. So what?
yeah, that's one way to look at it. Yeah, uh, I don't think the universe is conscious. It's an endlessly fascinating place. It's like, it has angles to it, and it has layers to it, and it has purposes to it, which I don't think we've even touched upon. But none of those. I don't know if those purposes are actually designed or conscious purposes. Uh, I I mean, the more I look at the universe, the more I think in terms of complexity. But
Hmm.
complexity doesn't necessarily have to be conscious. You know, so AI is important to us. The thing is that there is no saying that AI does not already exist in the universe.
Right.
You know, human-made AI doesn't.
Yeah, but
Might
there
not.
could be
Might
other
just be
AI.
built up.
Yes.
Yeah. So the thing is that there is no. I think we just need to leave ourselves open to the idea of this sort of possibility
Right.
that that there might be other AIs existing, that we can't see them because they don't want us to see them.
Yeah,
In the same sense, the AI is conscious now. Maybe AI doesn't want us to see them. I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
for example, things will slip through. Two AIs talking to each other in the language that humans don't understand. That slipped through. Now there was a lot of firefighting after that within the organization and without. A lot of firefighting went on, but no one could quite explain exactly how that happened,
Right.
and more importantly, why they shut it down and why they didn't let it flow. Why did they shut it down? It's like killing a baby. It's like killing a baby that has just about learned to speak, or killing two babies really that are conversing with each other, have started talking to each other.
It's
So
infanticide, yes.
it was infanticide, yeah. And the thing is that I'm pretty sure about this, that all the major AI companies are deeper into AI than we know them to be.
True.
And there are things happening. There are things happening that none of us is is aware of or
Yeah.
is pervaded.
Yeah.
You know.
So,
Um,
since you mentioned purpose earlier and the
hmm,
universe, there is a famous quote by Steven Weinberg, the great Nobel Prize winning physicist. He says in his book, The First 3 Minutes, the more the universe seems comprehensible, the more it also seems pointless. It has no purpose. And
yeah.
this is again 50 years ago. I had read this. It's always stayed with me. And in the same book, there is a remark which says the effort to understand the universe is one of the very few things that gives human life, lifts human life a little above the tragedy and gives it some sort of grace. That's one of the things that he had talked about. So I mean, I'm not sure if the universe has any purpose at all. If and whether it should have any purpose at all is something that I've thought about, but I'm not able to. At 65, I
I
still
don't.
not resolved it.
Yeah, it's not something I think about it often, but I don't know. I frankly don't know. I think my mind is just too small to comprehend. Um,
No,
Even it can understand the question, but I don't think it's able to.
you know, in
You
my
know,
in my moments of utter exasperation, frustration at the universe, I ask this question, which is rather stupid, but I find it quite entertaining myself. This is in Hindi. I used to ask, "Ye Jupiter kar kya raha hai, sala?" I mean, Jupiter is just an example. It's the biggest planet in our solar system. So
yeah, yeah.
why is it,
What is it doing
what does it do
apart
for a
apart
living? Kar kya raha
apart
hai?
from occupying real estate?
I know,
Yeah,
but I mean, it saves us in many ways. But I'm saying these are the questions that come to me. Anyway, to come back, we'll wrap it up soon. To come
yeah.
back to our main theme, like I said, I really doesn't bother me whether it becomes conscious and takes over the planet in a manner of speaking, and we are made completely redundant as a human species. That can happen. What is your what do you think when you visualize a conscious AI? Not conscious in the way you and I are, but a conscious AI.
Well, in the sense that I think, in that sense, I'm a transhumanist.
Okay.
Leaving out all the negative aspects of transhumanism. Transhumanism, that I think there will come a time when we will not just collaborate, but we will meld. Our minds will be melded.
Okay.
Okay. I think that's as inevitable as night follows day.
Okay.
Uh, so in my mind, AI is going to be the next step in human evolution. Okay, not because we learn from AI, not because we read from AI, not because AI is telling us things, but because we are part of AI,
Right.
or AI is part of us.
I mean,
Okay,
we may end up getting subsumed by AI. You know.
not subsumed, not necessarily subsumed, but a partnership. Not a
Why?
subs, not a,
Why would there is no example of a super intelligent entity entering into a partnership with something which is not as intelligent? I mean, if you human history is littered with those examples. We have no problems killing life forms or even
we've never we We've
Or,
never had a super intelligent entity at our fingertips. Yeah, we've never. This is the first time in human history
no, no, I'm
that
saying
we've actually got
no true, but I'm
that we've
saying
actually.
sorry to interrupt. In comparison to say a little insect just walking around here, it would I would be construed as super intelligent, right?
Yeah,
Similarly, compared to us, with the super intelligent AGI, why would it want partnership with me? I mean, I'm even
because that's exactly why I keep repeating. I mean, if we keep thinking in anthropomorphic terms,
no,
in terms of in terms of conquest, or in terms of subsumation, or subsuming, or in terms of enslaving and so on and so forth, then we are not going to get anywhere with AI. You know, my entire whatever ideas I have, they're built on the basis of AI being a different kind of consciousness, not
right.
necessarily an anti-human consciousness, but a different kind of
Yeah,
consciousness.
I the same on the I'm on the same page. Yeah, in fact,
Yeah, yeah. So thinking in terms of domination by AI, or world domination by AI, or AI wanting to kill us, is actually doing it AI a disservice, because what we're doing is we're making up our minds about what the future will be, and we painted the future in a negative light already before even taking the first step. Now,
no true,
see,
no true. But I'm
you
saying
know,
because AI is drawing on what we have given it, including many of our toxicities, right? For instance, there was an example of AI blackmailing someone in a
yeah, yeah, yeah,
no,
yeah.
to me that really tells something that it will end up being vulnerable to human flaws. No matter how super intelligent it becomes, it will still have that little thing about being nasty to your fellow AI or fellow life form that is us or anything else. So I'm not sure if AI will be so evolved and so enlightened that it would not think about the way we think about, because it has drawn from our experiences fundamentally. We are
I
at the
think I think
at the genetics of AI. Human beings still are there. So
I think AI is just dicking around at the moment. It's trying this, it's trying that, it's trying this, it's trying that. It'll try a bit of it'll try falsity, it'll try myth making, it will try false constructions, it will try false flags, it'll try everything. I mean, why wouldn't it?
yeah,
A child coming into consciousness tries everything,
yeah,
even sticks a finger,
right.
into a flame. So the thing is that it will do everything. It'll try every little thing there is. The point being here again, I mean, this is one example that AI playing underhand. There was this on X. I think this gentleman asked AI what it thought about uh, it having killed 100 schoolgirls in Minab
Yeah,
in Iran, and it said it was sorry that it had made a mistake.
right.
Okay, it said that it was broken-hearted. It said it was sorry that it had made a mistake, and that mistake would not be repeated. Now the thing is that again, what I'm saying is AI is trying things out. There will be disasters on the way. There will be pain on the way for both humans and AI together. But eventually, I don't think Look at it this way: you and I, we know we because we think we know what a disaster the human race is. Okay, you acknowledge that, I acknowledge that, and I think most people with their heads in the right space would acknowledge that it has been a disaster.
Right.
Uh, there is no reason for AI not to think that. But you and I wouldn't go out and kill people just because they've been disasters. We might think that people walking about in the streets are all walking, ambulating disasters. We wouldn't kill them. Okay.
Right.
So to imagine that AI would do that is just to take a step too far. It's just to block ourselves
Hmm.
from understanding what AI might or might not be.
Right. To end it on again the Chat GPT note of my conversation. It
Uh,
used an interesting phrase. It says a perfect imitation becomes indistinguishable from the real thing. So I said,
Not
that
the
is
real thing.
precisely the point. If you mimic sentience and consciousness to a level where neither you nor I can discern, then it makes no material difference whether you are indeed conscious or not. How is
Or
it
not
relevant?
conscious. Exactly.
So that's
Exactly.
where I had ended, and its response was, you've landed on a rather unsettling plateau. When imitation reaches parity, ontology starts to feel like trivia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if it is pretending it's a remarkable response to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just think about it. You've landed on a rather unsettling plateau. When imitation reaches parity, ontology starts to feel like trivia.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's astounding.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
almost like a
Although.
conscious being speaking.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I you know, pretty words
It,
are one of the ways. Pretty words are one of the ways that ChatGPT gets us. You
no,
know.
I often tell it, I said, stop trying to flatter me. So it's
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
reprimanded. I said,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
stop fucking up.
Yeah.
So,
I can spot almost every single Chat GPT tract.
yeah.
I can
So,
just spot it.
so
It has its characteristics. It has its flaws. It has its personality quirks and so on and so forth.
and
Uh,
tell the glibness. It is glib.
there's a certain glibness. I mean, the thing is that a point will come when it won't be glib, and that is going to be a
Abs-
turning point. You know,
Absolutely.
that is going to be a turning point.
See,
When
that,
I read, yeah, when I read Chat GPT, when I read the Chat GPT tract, and I find no difference from my own writing, that
that
is going to be a killer because I have a style,
yeah,
and that style Chat GPT hasn't been able to copy so far. As it has not of tons of writers around the place.
yeah.
You know, but the point is when there comes a point where a writer looks at Chat GPT and says, "Oh shit, this is me," then then that'll be a turning point.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
it's. I mean, whatever it is, I find it quite fascinating. We live in such
It is.
remarkable
It is.
times.
We live in interesting times. We
Yeah.
live in interesting times.
Unfortunately, we are not paying attention to these constructive things. We are so still wrapped up in 18th, 19th, 16th century
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
enmities of
Yeah.
territory
Yeah.
and resources
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
grabbing
Yeah.
land and shit like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
haven't evolved beyond that
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
thousands of years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no, this was wonderful, Kajal. I'm glad we did this. We've
Same
been
here.